Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This video today is very special, very important for me because it's going to answer some questions that I had prior to coming to Vegas, some genuine concerns as a Christian coming to Vegas of what to expect. And today we have a special guest, lead pastor Joseph Gibbons from Favor City Church here in the Las Vegas Valley, who is kind enough to join us and answer some of these questions that I had and that you may have. So stay tuned and enjoy the video. All right, well, here we go.
Here we are.
Why don't we jump into it?
Let's do it, man.
All
Thank
right.
you for having me.
Absolutely. It's definitely a pleasure. And I know you've been here for a few years. As a matter of fact, on that note, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Joseph. My wife, Kristen, and I, we moved to Las Vegas August of 2020. The world was shut down, nothing else to do, right? So we decided to move across the country with our two kids, Cannon and Riley Joe. So we've been here for about 3.5 years. We planted Favor City Church here in Las Vegas Valley.
Okay, and where are you guys from?
We're from Alabama, so we moved from Mobile, Alabama, kind of the Bay Area, all the way out here, about 1,800 miles away to the desert.
Oh, wow. And what prompted that decision?
Yeah, so I'm a pastor and a church planter, and God just really kind of put a burden on our heart. We got to know. I love, Vance Pittman says it this way. He's a mentor of mine. He says the kingdom of God runs on the rails of relationships. And I built a friendship with a pastor in this city. You know, a lot of people think maybe there's not Christians in Las Vegas, but there actually are Christians in Las Vegas. God's moving in the valley. And so we got to experience just a little bit of God's activity through a local church.
Okay.
We came and I preached a D-Now weekend, which was basically just a rally for teenagers. So we got to experience kind of the beauty of God's activity, but also we saw a lot of the brokenness in the city in terms of Las Vegas is our nation's capital for teenage homelessness. And so we got to experience what does the church actually look like in a city like Las Vegas. And so God gave us both the sight to see our family here and thriving, and also a church that could actually be an answer and a remedy to that area of brokenness. And so it was kind of a burden mixed with, we could see our family living here.
Okay.
So.
Oh, that's great. Do you think, or do you find it was difficult or easy to build community once you arrived?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think on the outset to move to a new city, it would feel like it would be, especially when you're moving to a place where you don't know anyone. But really, we found that Las Vegas is very spiritually and relationally open. And so we started going to parks and around the Strip. You know, the Strip is just a very small area of the Las Vegas Valley. Around the Strip is very park-centric, very family-centric. And so we just started going to parks, and everyone was hungry for community after the pandemic. And we just started meeting people in that space. And so my wife started doing play dates and connecting. One thing about Las Vegas that's interesting is most people are not from here, right? And so you can kind of connect on the common ground of where you're from. And we started building a lot of friendships and relationships that way. We also moved. We had some friends that moved and got some jobs in some different areas of the valley, and they met people in those places of work. And instantly, you know, we just started building friendships. So it really wasn't as big of a barrier as you might would think.
That's interesting. It seems like it was very fluid and organic and just being friendly and saying hi.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Yeah, I've learned as long as you're not chasing people into their garage, if you meet them out in the public space, you know, they're pretty friendly and open to talk and to chat.
Well, that makes sense. So do you feel for somebody that may be apprehensive with making this move here, it sounds like they probably shouldn't be, right?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I think that, like I said, Las Vegas is it is very transient in nature, and a lot of people aren't from here, but everybody needs community. Right? Everybody needs friendships. And so I think that if you're open to finding those and putting yourself in those situations, then you actually can find a lot of purpose and a lot of meaning and a lot of really valuable friendships. So
that's awesome.
I don't think the apprehension is really warranted.
Okay. That's definitely good to hear from somebody that's been here a little bit longer than, in my case, only a few months.
Right.
I mean, I can see it. I can see it for myself, but it's refreshing hearing it from somebody else that's been here longer and has also had a positive experience. Now, if we transition a little bit more to the spiritual side, what spiritual needs do you see here in Vegas where a Christian could just jump in there and just be proactive and be a light?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So Las Vegas spiritually, I say it's wide open. So 60% of our cities is nuns. That's Nones, not Nuns. So
Okay.
nuns meaning that they have no religious affiliation whatsoever. Now that stat is specific to the city of Las Vegas, but overall, a recent stat by the Barna Group just came out. It said 84% of Americans are more spiritually open than they ever have been. And so when we think about the spiritual openness and landscape all across the United States, and then look at just the spiritual openness of Las Vegas, people are actually spiritually very open, even though they're not tied to a specific religion. So I think that when our church, our vision is to create a space where people can belong before they believe. And so when we say we're finding friendships and we're creating this common ground of community, and in that common ground of community, in that unity, in those friendships that you have around your dinner table, in those moments where you meet someone at a dog park or you meet someone at a community pool or a playground or things like that, in those moments is where people see Christ most clearly. And so I think when we think about, making an impact, doing something for Jesus, a lot of times we think about something extreme like moving to another part of the world, and God may call you to do that. But a lot of times what he's calling you to do is actually just be Jesus with skin on where you actually work, live, and play.
That's good.
In the park, on the golf course, at the basketball court, at the playground. In these spaces, how can we together create community? And in that community, show people Jesus. And so that's what our church is all about. And I think that's what you could find in Las Vegas. And the spiritual palette's wide open. We've seen over 50 baptisms since we started our church. And God is moving and active. I love Henry Blackaby's quote. He says it like this: find where God's moving and join him in his work. Otherwise, it's like a Christian swimming upstream, and I think God is moving in Las Vegas. Like, find where he's moving. Where is he relationally moving? And just join him in that. Join him in that relationship and share Jesus there. So I think that opportunity is wide open in Vegas.
Wow, that's definitely refreshing to hear, and definitely encouraging. I hope that encourages people that are making or considering the move over here as a Christian. Yeah. Now, that being said, what advice would you give a fellow believer as far as the temptations that may be exclusive to Vegas, and any pitfalls you think we should be worried about?
Yeah, I hear all the time. We moved out. Our kids were 2 and 4. They're 5 and 7 now. And they're like, "You're going to raise your kids in Las Vegas? That's crazy. What are they going to? You're going to raise them in a casino? Like, what's the landscape like?" And those things are there, but I like to say it like this: Las Vegas really just puts on billboards what everybody else does in private. And so, what we do in public and what this city advertises, a lot of places is shame, but it's not that it doesn't exist; it's just hidden. And so when it comes to raising a family in Las Vegas and even protecting yourself and your purity in Las Vegas, it's actually just more of a present reminder of me with my 7-year-old as we go look at the Bellagio fountains or whatever it is, for me to say, hey, when you see something like that, here's what we do. We bounce our eyes. Here's what we do. We don't focus on those things. We can actually enjoy the beauty and the ingenuity. There's a lot of beautiful things to enjoy in Las Vegas, and you're going to see the sin. Right? You're going to encounter that, but we encounter that anywhere, right? You have temptations at any high school across the country that you send your kids to. They're going to encounter temptations. They're going to be shown things on their phone. It all lives right there. And so I just think Vegas is just more of an opportunity to say, you know what? How do we just actively fight against the sin that so easily entangles us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, who's the author and perfecter of our faith, right? Hebrews 12 anchor is to say, just tangibly, I can say to my 7-year-old, yeah, we don't keep looking at stuff like that. We look ahead. And so maybe, hopefully, when he becomes a teenager and has more access to those types of things online, he actually has that practice in his DNA and who he is, and his just the way that he responds to life coming at him. So I think that's from the family angle. From the personal angle, how do you protect yourself is by grounding yourself in community. Where are you known? If you come to a new city and you don't make friendships, you don't build real friendships, then you're going to be able to do whatever you want and nobody's going to know. So you can have complete anonymity here, for sure. You can do that. But if you're known and rooted in a community and you're not showing up for a few weekends in a row, at church or at a small group or whatever it is, you're going to have people texting you, people calling you. They're going to notice when those patterns. So you insulate yourself with a community. I used an illustration several weeks ago in a sermon where we talked about the difference between isolation and insulation. And if you took a cold can of Coca-Cola, it does get hot out here in Las Vegas. If you took a cold can of Coca-Cola in a 116-degree day and put it out on pavement, it wouldn't last very long.
No.
Right? It'd be bubbling up. It'd be useless. Nobody would want that can of Coke. But if you put the same can of Coke in an ice chest and a Yeti cooler, and you put it down in that ice and you put it in that same environment, it's insulated, and all of a sudden that's a source of refreshment.
Wow.
Right? So the isolation leads to destruction. Insulation actually leads to you being a life-giving source for the community, a life-giving source for the city. And so we insulate ourselves with the community of God. We actually become a value add to the city that's broken and desperate and thirsty and needing some refreshment, as opposed to something that just can be discarded on the strip with everything else.
Wow, that was deep. That was very. That was a great example. Lastly, while we start to descend here, I noticed that the name of your church is Favor City. How did that come about?
Favor City, yeah. The name of our church is really special to us. Kristen and I, we were sitting at a church planting conference, and we're learning this mentality of what does it look like to plant a church. We engage the city with the gospel, we make disciples, and from there, Jesus says he'll build his church, right? And so we plant the church out of that. And we just said, God, we're going to start this new church. Really, you're building this church, and we're just joining your activity. And so if you're not in this, we don't want it. We don't want anything to do with something that your hand is not on. And so as we're praying that prayer, we come across Acts 2:47, and it says, so the early church, they were praising God and having favor with all people, and the Lord added to their number the day by day those who were being saved. And we just said, God, if that was true of the early church, why can't it be true of us? So, I can remember Kristen just scripting out Favor Church, and we just started to dream about what that name would look like for our community. And so that's where it was born. It was born out of a desperate prayer, saying, God, you better show up or we're shot. But also, just like an invitation and a reminder that this isn't about our talent. This isn't about our skill. This is about God's hand. And if his hand's on it, then there's nothing that anybody can do. The gates of hell can do is stand against it.
Well, I can definitely attest that God's hand has been on your church, and I'm very happy to have found your church. And I can attest the same thing for my family. Now, for people that may be viewing us, how would they go about finding your church?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can find us on Instagram at Favor City LV. That's the handle on all our social media. So Facebook, Twitter, you can find it all on there. YouTube, you can find messages and things like that on YouTube. And then our website is favorcitylv.com.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, thank you for your time, and hopefully we'll see you there.